All right, guys, here we go. Here we go. We got the championship, the finals, Blitz World Series action coming at you here on the Prime. Almost forgot the Prime map. Prime map, Blitz World Series event number 12. It's been 1 year, our 1 year anniversary. Here we are. We got Qien, the Octo Kid out of Russia in red on the right. We got Marko, the GOAT, aka the final boss in yellow on the left out of Finland. Best of 7 action starting off Soviet versus Soviet, then over to Allied versus Allied. Swap, 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 swap. You guys know the drill. So this map so far, we've had some pretty good action this month. You know, it's been fun. We've seen a lot of concentrated action early game in this top zone, and then it slowly shifts to the bottom. Some kind of exciting backdoor plays. Naval coming in at the last second. We've even seen the Yuri Prime get used a few times, which will make the YouTubers happy. They always get upset when my middle buildings don't do enough for me. So I think we had a few Yuri Primes this month. The Eagle Pad's been fun to watch the way that these players have used these. And we talked about this early on in the month. Is it viable to open the flak cannon? Is it worth it? And here we go, the two best Blitz players in the world right now in the championship, both opening their flak cannon, not willing to just continuously get harassed by those Eagles. So interesting to see both players with a very, very almost identical build at this point, which is, you know, not really super surprising. Now, of course, Marko, right? I mean, call him the greatest player of all time for a reason. Regardless of the game mode, he's always in there. We've seen him, you know, now with several, obviously, wins in the Blitz World Series final events. Qien, now Qien we saw kind of slow down the last month or two. For those of you guys who were following that, Qien got a girlfriend. He got a little bit distracted the last couple months, and we definitely saw it in his gameplay. This month, Qien and his girlfriend broke up. You know, a little bit sad, a little bit unfortunate for him, obviously. You know, hate to be excited about it, but then again, it does give Qien more time to play Red Alert 2 Blitz. I'm totally kidding. Obviously, real life stuff's more important. But with that being said, Qien's been playing a ton of Blitz now because he doesn't have a girlfriend, and so I think we're going to see that old Qien that we're used to, that we were seeing a few months back. So, should be interesting to see if Marko can contest with the Octo Kid here. Both players now, again, very, very just almost identical builds here. 3 War Factories to 3 War Factories as the fodder now pumping out for Qien. Qien trying to take some bites here. It looks like Qien is a little bit ahead here. Marko forced to pull back a little bit, use his sentry gun. Marko's fodder a little bit late to the party. Marko getting overwhelmed here, it looks like, but we're going to have to see how the dust settles. All going to come down to unit control here. Qien way ahead on tanks, but now a couple popping. Oh, and Marko calls GG. And that's the Octo Kid we know and love right there. First one on the board, Soviet versus Soviet. Now switching over to Allied versus Allied. All right, so now over to Allied versus Allied. Yeah, so the first one, I mean, talk about just running and gunning, kicking down right out the gates. And Qien, you know, we've talked about that when those windows of opportunity open against a player that's better than you. If you're ahead one moment, it doesn't mean you're going to be ahead the next. And so much of playing this game at the top level is recognizing when the window is open, and is it open enough for you to get through? What kind of value are you going to get? Is it going to be worth it? And Qien in that position, his build was a little bit faster. He got ahead on tanks. He saw that opening and he went in. And Marko, interesting to see Marko not assess that a little bit earlier and start spamming sentry guns. It was interesting. Marko was clearly just trying to play him straight up, and Qien just got ahead. But like I said, when Qien's on 12 hours a day of playing Blitz, I mean, we've talked about me. It's really, really scary, obviously, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. So we'll see what Marko can bring here. Obviously, getting away from Soviet versus Soviet, you know, things start to get a little bit more mixed and matched on what the tactics are going to be, and specific decision making more on the back end versus that Soviet versus Soviet, where it very often does come down to who can do it faster and who can do it just slightly better in the engagements. So again, we're seeing Marko chip down, both players chipping down the walls of their oils, the opponent's oils, so that if they do have to go in for a backdoor snipe, these walls, it's hard to appreciate. It's one of those things where at the lower level, it's like walls, no walls, you know, it doesn't really matter that much. At the top level though, if you want to sneak down and grab your opponent's oil, the extra few shots to go through the wall is like a year and a half for them to respond. It's just not viable. So does hop over and grabs that AFC in a very scary AFC placement from Qien. A little bit sloppy. I'm not sure what he was thinking there. And now again another forward AFC. I'm just questioning that. Should be trying to make him work for it a little bit more, you'd think. And again, Marko going to get in, grabs the AFC. Qien has another one right behind it. Qien goes downfield and repays back the favor. And so just like that, it went from Marko being ahead on the Eagle race to Qien being ahead, thanks to that double AFC build. And now Qien on another AFC. Which I think is very prudent here at the top level. We've just seen it so many times. It's Eagles versus Eagles. Whoever can control the skies controls the game. And so for Qien just to keep spamming AFCs, I think makes perfect sense. And Marko now has to do the same thing. Marko now builds another AFC. Both players just stuck spamming AFCs at this point. Qien out with a couple Patriot missiles. Marko out with a couple Patriot missiles. Yeah, and again gets another AFC. And Qien gets another AFC. Back and forth, back and forth. You know, we've talked about it before at the top level. Just, you know, I've talked about discussing just scratching AVA in some ways, and I discussed it with the players, and the overwhelming consensus of the pro players was like, yeah, sometimes it's kind of campy. You know, the Eagle versus Eagle stuff can be a little bit annoying, but ultimately they're all like, it's fun. You know, it is fun, and we do get some exciting mid and late games kind of once the players get a little bit more established here. If we can make it to that point, it looks like Qien again going to look like he's going to try to pushing in his GIs now. Grizzlies behind it as Marko finds an oil downfield without enough defense apparently. So that oil does go down as Qien trying to chomp away on the top side, but Marko doing a good job holding the position. Snipers out now to thin out that fodder. Okay, barracks goes down, gets in, ooh, grabs an oil and a nice chain reaction. So Qien just caught a little bit out of position, and against a player like Marko, you know, it's difficult to appreciate. You can't make that mistake. If you build an oil next to another oil, Marko will, I don't even think Marko has to see it, I think he senses it. Marko like gets like a spidey sense. He senses that there's an oil next to another oil. He immediately goes down and makes him pay for it. Qien now on 3 AFCs. Oh! Oh my god. And now it's kind of off to the races for Qien. He's got to try to push here and get his value on the... But Marko has to pull 4 tanks off for the paradrop. Marko pulls 4 tanks out of position. Qien's army now well, now his reinforcements come back. But Qien's got a couple mirages in this mix. Marko now trying to building block, just hide behind it, give him whatever he can. He knows he's so far ahead thanks to that eagle hit on the macro. If he can somehow hold this position, now using his eagles defensively, and Qien trying to dive on that oil, gonna lose a lot of tanks for it though, and that oil doesn't even give him that great of a chain reaction. Honestly, Qien needs to focus on clicking down these tanks. Marko out with a beautiful pillbox to hold that position, and Qien forced to go home. Qien doesn't have a home to go back to. He lost 2 AFCs full of eagles and an oil. You got to think that Marko's just going to radically continue to advance his position here if Qien can't find a way to counterpunch and get some offensive value. And I just don't really see a gap in Marko's armor right now. We all know what he's capable of with a couple pillboxes and a couple grizzlies. Marko just such a strong defender in these positions, and that's what we're seeing here. Qien just a little bit of a pause there as he's thinking about his options. Has 5 eagles he's going to send down and try to find something, but Marko just more diligent and getting so much more value with the eagles, and ultimately you've got to think that's what's going to swing this game. But with that being said, Qien on tech tanks, and Marko's still stuck building grizzlies. Ooh, oh, and grabs another oil and gets a war factory with it, and Marko is picking Qien apart from the skies, but Qien's got the mirages and the prism tanks, but he doesn't really have... Oh my god. I don't think he really has the numbers to push. He can't push into pillboxes. He can't push into GIs, certainly. Maybe some snipers for Qien to help thin out these GIs. Now Marko switches over to Rockies. Rockies for Marko now, and now a battle lab from Marko. So Marko on 4K. Wow, that force shield, almost, I mean, split second late would have lost that battle lab. So Qien's on 10K. Qien is on 10K. Oil grabs a war factory. Both players doing a great job. Good map awareness here from both of them, making each other pay. And this map, I mean, this map's meant to be congested. If you only play one half of the map, you are supposed to run out of building space. Your oils are supposed to make you pay for not spreading yourself out. But neither player, I guess, willing to kind of branch out to the bottom side and find safety for their oils. They'd rather just eat the hits, I guess, and keep the action focused on the top side. Yeah, Marko is going broke here, and now on 1 war factory for Marko. Marko's pumping these Rocketeers. Marko going beast mode. I think Qien's nicely clawing his way back into this game. Qien's economy now struggling as well, and that's what you'll see with Allied. If you're like, oh, what's happening? Why are they broke? Well, first off, these guys have been harassing each other's oils all game. But second off, building Rocketeers, Eagles, and tanks will drain like even a heavy economy essentially. Now, we've talked about this before, Allied versus Allied at the top level right now. Oftentimes, it is a starvation contest. It's going to come down to these long games like this. The oils, right? You can only build 12 oils per game. So these guys know it. They're like, all right, I'm going to chip away on the oils. Eventually, he's going to run out of oils and starve to death, and that's what we're seeing here. Snipers on the front line cleaning out some GIs. And now Marko amassing the Prism tanks. Marko going right to Prisms. No Mirages for Marko. Qien asking me if he can build more oils. How does Qien not know that? We implemented that like 4 or 5 months ago. It doesn't come up very often, to be perfectly honest. All right, big engagement now. The Rockies. Rockies not targeting the Prism tanks the way I would have liked to have seen them earlier. Qien now down. Qien now without an army. And so it sounds like... So Qien just asked why he can't build more oils. Like I said, I think we added that. God, when did we add that? 4 or 5 months ago? So now Qien saying, I have 6. Marko saying, I killed. Yeah, people struggle with that concept. It's you can only build 12 per game. It doesn't matter how many you have out at any given time. It's 12 per game. It doesn't come up very often, apparently, because Qien didn't even know about the rule. Qien's played more Blitz than anyone, and we've had the 12 oil limit. God, I feel like we've had it for it must be 5 months now. Gets in, grabs that oil, not able to get the MCV though. And so yeah, so Qien, so Qien's not building more oils. Marko is probably out of oils as well to build. 2, 4, 6, 7. He has 7 out. Yeah, you got to imagine he's lost a few. He's lost about that, yeah. The rope-a-dope. And again, yeah, and so Marko, both players struggling on their economy, though. I mean, both players have a similar amount of oils right now, but ultimately Marko just keeps chipping away. And Qien still has a couple exposed oils, so this oil can go down. Yeah, if he dives all 8 here, he'll get that one. And so Marko's just going to starve Qien out in this one. Yep, there you go. So Qien now down to 4 oils. And yeah, Qien just not really going to be able to make an offensive push here. And so Marko with the double AFCs. I'm surprised to see Marko pushing here. But maybe these Prism tanks, and now the Rockies going to have to dive on these Prisms. Oh yeah, both of these guys not building gap generators. You think that was like a gentleman's agreement? You think they both met in the players' lounge before the game and they were like, hey, no gap generators. Maybe we just get rid of gap generators. The thing is, by the time the Allied players building, like Allied versus Soviet, by the time the Allied players building gap generators, it probably means the game's over anyway. The Allied player, by the time the gap generators are out, it means the game's gone too long and the Soviet player's probably going to lose anyway. Maybe we just get rid of the gap generators. They only slow things down. Alright, so now Marko is 7k in the bank. Yeah, no, that's funny. Yeah, no, yeah, it's funny. No gap generators are out for either player. Yeah, which would obviously have stopped. It's kind of interesting to see. And now both players... Well, Marko's got 9k. So Marko's got 9k. He can just keep diving Eagles. And so Qien going for the War Factories, I don't think is the move here, right? You got to go for the oils. So now Marko coming in. He's got 9 Eagles in this group. He's going to grab another oil. Oh, that nice force shield, though. But the force shield puts his anti-air low power, so his Eagles, yeah, so all the Eagles do come back. Both players dead-ass broke, boys. Dead-ass broke. Oh, wait. No, not dead-ass broke. Marko's on 15k. Why does it feel like both these guys are starving and dying? Marko's on 17k chilling. He's just going to keep throwing Eagles at the wall till something sticks. Qien calls GG. All right, over to point number 3 now. And a quick reminder, guys, if you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's free for you. It helps me immensely get that content in front of more people. We got to trick the algorithm. Drop a comment. Let me know where you're enjoying the content from. YouTube will be like, oh my god, look at all these comments. This video must be amazing. Let's get it in front of more people. Boom. Just like that, everyone's watching and playing Red Alert 2. That's what it's all about. If you're on Twitch, you're thinking, hey, YouTube could be fun. I like highlights. Head over to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you want to catch the action live because you're living in the past. This happened a month ago. Come over to Twitch. It's free. It's easy to use. You'll love it. All right. So Marko now pushing in with the GIs on this map. I think you got to do it. You got to push with the GIs and you got to get some value out of them. Of course, Qien knows that's going to be coming here, so waits till the GIs get bundled up. And decent. He got decent value running those over. So yeah, that's not. Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. He didn't really get enough value out of it, which you know, the allied push. I think if you do a soft enough allied push, you don't need to get, like, if you just open like 6, 7 GIs and kind of go harass them and try to confuse them, you don't need as much value. But Yeah, that many GIs like that, you really do need to get a little bit more out of it. GIs aren't incredibly cheap. You know, they do stress your economy a little bit, so there is like always that balance equation to it. Yeah, you need to get you want to get a little bit more out of that GI rush. So Marko now pumping the Grizzlies, and no pillboxes from Marko. Very ballsy move here. You got to know that Qien's going to be looking to kind of get some value here with these Rhinos early on. Now Marko out with a pillbox. Both players exchanging shots with those Eagles. And it was interesting to see Soviet versus Soviet. Both players instantly built Patriot missiles. Didn't even consider them. Oh, beautiful unit control from Marko. And Marko, the GOAT, pushing around Rhino tanks with his Grizzlies. You know, I don't really even know how it's possible, to be perfectly honest, but somehow he is pulling it off, and he has Qien on his heels right now with literally a batch of Grizzlies, which I'm not really sure how he's pulling that off. So, yeah, Marko not being forced to spam too many pillboxes in this position, a comfortable amount of defense, but not having to go crazy. Both players back forth the Eagles, but yeah, it was interesting to see in this matchup, neither player opened that anti-air defensive structure, which was interesting. Maybe Soviet versus Soviet, they just felt like, I guess I don't know why in a swap match it would be different, but that's why I'm not in here with these guys. So, Eagles looking for targets here. Yep, does get another hit in. Yeah, each Eagle hit, bringing your tank to half health, definitely does make a difference. Okay. So now the AFC's out for Marko and Qien. So Qien on 8K, but Qien's got to be looking to try to get some value here. Now, Prism Tower, but it does put Marko low power. Prism Tower back out now. And Qien doesn't have any fodder to deal with this Prism Tower, but wow, chooses to push into that Prism Tower. So, yeah, Marko's economy is actually almost perfect right now. You know, obviously, if you have too much, it's tempting to think more money's better, but that can actually mean you're overproducing your economy, not producing the more important things that you need to be building. And so I love this for Marko that he's straddling this 2K as we get into a mid game, and he's got 5 Eagles out. So the 5 Eagles can now start going to work, and look at Qien's base, no anti-air. So Marko right now, you know, he's just salivating. Every time these 5 Eagles have a bomb ready, he's going downfield and getting value. Another oil, another, oh my god, another absolutely beautiful. Eagles grab a 3-pack, and Qien is just getting, wow, Marko's just making Qien pay the price right now for these oil placements. He's just putting his oils in spots that aren't safe. You know, there is a very specific strategy. You need to keep them you need to keep 2 cells between your oils, or you're going to get those nasty chain reactions. And against an allied player like Marko, who has such good map awareness, and Qien doesn't have anti-air. So these Eagles are just going to keep picking them apart, and somehow Qien is radically out-tanked right now. Like 1,000 to 1. What just happened in this game? What just happened? If you were an alien and you had never seen Red Alert 2 before, and then you just saw this game, you would be like, of course Allied's OP. They got these flying things. Apparently their tanks are just as good. You'd be like, oh, how could Allied ever lose? And that's what's so funny when you get Marko in here doing something that we all think is so difficult, and Marko just crushing. Oh my god, that Desolator, and the Desolator just gets shot down. Marko rolls through, crushing, not winning, crushing his Allied versus Soviet point. Let's see if Qien can make the same thing happen. Switch factions and run it back, boys. Best of 7, so the action's still rolling on here. All right, here we go. So now over to Allied versus Soviet again. The Andy versus Jaz. Andy versus Jaz. Every other stream we get asked. Andy, yeah. I mean, Andy's just really difficult. I agree. Andy's fun to watch. Andy's incredibly difficult to work with. He makes I mean, that's the thing. Andy likes to be difficult to work with. It's like his thing. It's like his hobby is to, like, be difficult. And so, yeah, when I start getting paid a salary, when this is my full-time job, then I will be getting paid to deal with difficult people, and then I'll consider it. But as long as this is a hobby, unfortunately, I can't do it if it's not fun. All right, so sentry's out. A little bit of a delay on Qien's GI rush here, trying to look for a gap, but the sentry's coming from Marko. Obviously, he knew exactly what was coming here. So now shooting the ground like this, trying to get the GIs into a ball. You want to bundle your GIs up, kind of get more power in their shots. Running over the GIs. Ooh, quite a few GIs survive that. Interesting use of the cliff there. Another sentry gun out. Can Marko... Ooh, I don't think Marko can hold this. Where's the next sentry gun going? Sentry gun goes down. If anyone could hold this, it would be Marko, because he does miraculous things in these low body situations, but this would be losing certainly for Immortal. War Factory goes down, very, very tough position. Marko calls GG. And so Marko kind of committing to holding the eagle pad was interesting. Against a strong GI rush on this map, we have seen players, even at the top level, kind of just hold the higher ground. All right, so now switching over again, and very funny to see, you know, in all the talks of Sov being OP, which is just generally the case, we see Marko, and so Qien's, right, the GI rush in Allied, that's always kind of viable. I mean, it's kind of like flipping a coin. I mean, it's just really, really scary on some of these fast maps, and now Marko doing the same thing, the GI rush coming at Qien. And Qien knows it's coming. So again, Qien tries to hold the flat ground. You gotta be tempted just to hold the hill, give up the eagle pad, and play the bottom of the map. I mean, I don't know. That's what the lower division players do. That's what I do. But yeah, I mean, I guess these guys... Oh, did Qien just lose his eagle on the pad? These guys are going at each other, man. I love it. I love it. The GI's coming in, and Marko obviously getting radically less value. That GI push from Qien was very, very strong, but you also saw Marko had 3 sentry guns off his eagle pad. And then the GIs came right up the hill. And, you know, that's why I talk about it's kind of like flipping coins sometimes with the GI rush, because sometimes, like, Marko's tank could have ran over 5 more GIs with one slightly different click. And that might have completely swung that game. Because ultimately, we've seen it before. Like, the GI rush, and you're like, oh my god, he's about to win. And then the GI rush doesn't win. And then all of a sudden, the Soviet player just blows the Allied's face off. So it is one of those things with a GI rush like that, especially one that where Qien really committed to his... yeah, it's either going to go fast in one player's favor or the other. Qien now continuing to push here, trying to use these rhinos again. Doesn't want to try to get into that late game position where Marko, well, it wasn't even late game last time, right? Marko already out with the AFC now. We saw this last game. Marko with 5 eagles harassing. And Qien, though, this is what these guys are all about, though, right? They're living and learning point by point, adjusting their tactics in real time. So completely different look now. In their last Allied versus Soviet, Qien neglected the anti-air, and Marko's eagles ate him alive. So this time you do see Qien already out now with 2 flak cannons and a bit of a safer build here as he's trying to group things around his flak cannons. The oils are a bit more spaced out. And now Qien coming in, pumping the dogs, pumping the fodder, trying to get offensive value here. That's a lot of Grizzlies. That's a lot of Grizzlies. But never underestimate the rhinos. Good engagement here, decent unit control. Both players doing a great job, but wow, and almost a wash there. Qien coming out slightly ahead, but not enough to push into the pillboxes. Now Marko out with the snipers to control the fodder. The 5 eagles again find a target, force the sell, but do get the war factory. And yeah, like, I mean, this kind of anti-air like this, it's not going to work against a player like Marko. He's just going to go around it. So Qien is going to have to continue to pump flat cannons, but you know, Qien... does Qien want to do that, or does Qien want to say, screw the flat cannons, I'm going hunting? And it looks like Qien's going to opt for the latter here as he pushes into the back of the base. Beautiful pillbox from Marko. He's known for those pillboxes and gets them in the perfect position. They completely swing engagements like that. The elite Grizzly, of course, coming in, helping out as well. Another 4 eagles. 4 eagles this time, going to grab a power plant. Does put Qien low power for the moment, so those eagles got in and out cleanly. That was a really, really nice map awareness there. He knew if he grabbed that power plant, if he went low power, he wouldn't pay anything for it. So free power plant, slowed down production. Very nice. 5 eagles again, juiced up. Oh, not juiced up. Never mind. The eagles got confused. Oh, are they already filled up again? Yep, oil. Oh, but that time. So again, guys, you need those 5 eagles to all hit clean. And one of those eagles got shot down before it dropped its bomb. So that oil survived. And luckily for Qien, because it does keep his war factory up. Qien diving on an oil, paid a lot for that. Counter punch coming. I don't think Qien can hold. Yep, I don't think Qien can hold. Now Qien trying to pump drones. Loses the MCV, though. And look at that. Qien has a waypoint into Marko's base. He was going full send there. Just did not get what he wanted. And Marko just... I mean, Marko, they don't look like Grizzlies. When Marko's using them, we're not going to call them Grizzlies anymore. We need a different word for Grizzlies when Marko's in control of them. So Allied is winning right now. So we've just seen Allied win 3 in a row, which is hilarious because we just have not seen this in months, really. Well, I think on the Mummy map, we had Allied beating Soviet a couple times. Okay, so again we switch over, and will the streak continue? The first player here. Oh, this is it. This is 3-2. This is 3-2 already. So Marko now with Soviet, if he can get a win here, he's gonna take home the series. So this could be it, boys. Coming to an end pretty quick. Now I gotta say, just because it could be ending real soon. If you guys are watching this, remember we run monthly tournaments every month. New maps, cash prizes, divisions for all skill levels. Even if you're terrible at the game, We got a division for you. It's a lot of fun. RedAlert2.com. Join my Discord. Come hang out. We're always looking for new players. Always looking for new players. GI Rush coming in for Qien. Can it get the value he got last game? It's not looking like it here. And without Qien's, without the value from these opening GIs, Qien is going to come into a mid game that he does not want to be in. It's going to be tough. This is going to be tough. He needed to get value out of those GIs. And that's the thing with the GI Rush, right? That's why I said it's like flipping coins. I missed what Marko just said. But yeah, I mean that's the tough position. I mean Qien, a big key to victory here was for Qien was getting that early GI value. And just wasn't able to get it. Now Marko is going a little bit broke. You see him selling off a couple sentry guns now. Qien sends one. That must have been a misclick, but sends one grizzly into Marko for no reason. Oh, shot. Oh, the eagle was shot out right as yeah. So Qien, what can Qien do here? Now, when will Marko's flat cannon start coming, and how quickly can Qien get an Air Force out? Of course, you have to be so careful in this position for Qien. Obviously does not want to get too far behind on tanks. And look at this from Qien. Very bold move here. No preemptive defensive structures, no pillboxes. We've seen Qien oftentimes on this map trying to just establish a line here, trying to control this center, and Marko playing back a little bit, which is kind of interesting here. Qien posturing up a bit more, but the Rhinos are getting scary, and with no pillboxes on the field, it's a tough position. Will Qien just give up this oil and hold the hill? It looks like that might be the plan here, and I like that move for Qien. Qien only on 1K in the bank right now, and he's trying to get his 5 Eagles out. He does want to get those 5 Eagles as soon as possible. I completely understand that, but he cannot afford to put himself broke, and certainly cannot afford to be losing Eagles right now. Flat cannon in. Ooh, look at that unit control. Micros those Eagles out of the way. All right, Rhinos coming, and yep, and we're going to see Qien hold the hill here. Tough uphill push here for Marko, and Marko's going for it. Marko pushing uphill into 5 pillboxes and all of Qien's Grizzlies here. Can Qien hold this? Can Qien hold this? Another pillbox, maybe some defensive work from the Eagles. Qien now trying to dance around. The Rhinos pulled through. The Rhinos now uncontested. The Eagles coming in too little, too late. Marko now down to the AFC to take that out. Yeah, tough position for Qien. Not much left to do here. Paradrop coming in also too late. Group of GIs on the top side, bit out of position. Marko takes down the War Factory before going back to the MCV. A lot of pillboxes here in this position. Now the GIs to help hold the MCV. Marko with Qien with 14K in the bank. If somehow he was able to hold this, but it's just going to be a very, very tough position as another wave comes. The reinforcements are here. Marko's on 4 War Factories. That was only group number 1. Group number 2 rolls down, and it just blows through. And that's why we call Marko the GOAT. That's why we call him the final boss. He's making Soviet look OP. He's making Allied look OP. Qien calls GG. Marko puts that one on the board. Wow. Big shout out to Qien and Marko, as always, putting on a good show for us.